initiated about 26 years ago, so we have a lot of experience in this market. If you need to know any more about us, you can find us on the website. We're pretty easy to find. I have a couple questions first before I start. I know I only have 5 minutes. How many of you have implemented records management systems, or electronic records management systems? Raise your hand. Okay, about a third. How many of you have heard of the DoD 5015.2 certification or specification? A couple of you as well. Well, my quick brief discussion are the pros and cons of the DoD 5015. I think it's important that if you're looking at systems presently in the federal government and particularly in the DoD, that you take into consideration the DoD 5015.2 spec. And I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. It comes from a group called JITIC, and JITIC is a joint interoperability group that certifies products for the government. If you're into certain clandestine organizations within the government, it's a certification similar to what you go for SIPRNet or JWICS or whatever the case may be. But it's a certification rather than a compliance type of review, let's say, of the standard. So, real quickly, the pros of the DoD 5015. It ensures consistent standards. There are standards that develop over years. There are things that are added to it. There's several areas. There's basic, there's secure. The most recent one is eFOIA, or Freedom of Information Act. And JITIC sets the standards for this. So any product that goes through the process, and there's a number of vendors who have gone through this certification, they have to meet those standards. They have to be certified on those standards. And JITIC actually comes to your site as a vendor and evaluates this. And if it doesn't comply at that point, then you typically have to go back to your engineering group and change it. And they're changing the way they do their business as well. Usually it was every 3 years you got to be certified. Now they have a perpetual license or a perpetual certification that if you add new things, they will certify it very quickly, and it's a continuum rather than you're thinking they're certified now, will be certified in 3 years when they go through the process again. Accelerates agency acquisition process. You have a standard now, you say, in your RFP or your evaluation, does your company, does this vendor have the certification? And then again, it eliminates a lot of folks, which you might like, but it's a standard that everybody can be consistent with in terms of evaluating systems. Third one is establishes baseline security and certification. One of the big issues within the DoD 5015.2 spec is how do you guarantee security of the objects? And I say objects rather than, that's not images, it's anything that you may want to store, okay, related to it. And it could be also physical stuff that's outside of the electronic realm that you need to manage in a secure way. And you need to know when you put it in the system, no one can go in there unless they have the right permissions or the right disposition schedule to take things out of the system. So you know that you have a very secure system to manage this because it's been certified and not just a compliance issue. And also you have, again, the certification point. All right, the cons: increases product cost and maintenance. For a vendor to go through this process, typically it's at least $30,000 to $40,000 up front. And then if you look at the resources that it costs you from the engineering perspective, the management perspective, and everything else, it's several $100,000 for a vendor to truly get this certified. And to go through this over, we've gone through it 4 times, so we've spent probably close to $1 million through these certifications. So it's very costly to us and these gentlemen here for being certified, but it also adds to the cost of the product. And you need to consider that you would probably pay a little bit more for a DoD certified records management system. Extremely complex. The rules of the DoD 5015 are very, very difficult and very, very challenging. And you need to recognize that. Now, the good news is on that one, nobody can really implement the full DoD 5015.2 spec unless you're starting your organization from scratch. It just won't happen. The organizational process and the cultural changes that this affects is almost impossible to. You can have a product that adheres to it, but you probably won't use all of the ability. It's like having Word, where you really don't use everything, but you know it's there, and you know if the product has gone through that testing. And then finally, the challenge of simple end-user interfaces. When the vendors usually pass the spec, okay, and get certified, they've done stuff within the product that doesn't lend itself that well to the front end. And that's why records management systems that are based on DoD 5015.2 take a long time to implement because the users take a long time to start really using it and taking advantage of it. So you need, in a lot of ways, to be successful is a tailored interface, but you have the back end of it being DoD 5015.2 certified.
Thank you. Thank you, Mitch.